Hello YouTube fam, this is the home bartender with Ann. Thank you. Dave from Cocktail Fridays and I were invited by Vino from 60 Second Cocktails a few months ago to talk about stirred tiki cocktails on Vino's channel. The initial question that Vino posed to us was, can tiki cocktails be stirred? So Dave at Cocktail Fridays really gave us all a very good education on stirred tiki cocktails. But for Dave and I, it also brought up the question of what makes tiki tiki as opposed to tropical. And I think in today's video, we're going to talk about that a little bit. It's a good one for that. I find these questions really interesting and worth diving into. In that video over on Vino's channel, I explained more about what makes tiki tiki. So I'll put a link for that video at the end of this one, and I'll put a link in the description box below, and I might even post my portion of that video here as well. We'll see. This cocktail, however, that I have here is called the Hakuna Banana. It's a stirred cocktail that Vino found for us. I didn't choose it because I believe it's a more tropical cocktail than a tiki one. So stick with me here. I'm going to try this one now and explain a bit more. Man, so good. I really like this cocktail. It's got a deep, rich molasses flavor that comes from the coconut Demerara syrup we use, which it gives it a real buttery mouthfeel, and I really like that. It's got a little bit of caramel coming through, got a bit of cola spice flavor from the syrup and the rums I'll use. It's not too boozy. We don't have a really crazy garnish going on here. It doesn't use fruit juice, and it's stirred. It's not blended or served with pebble ice or crushed ice. It's served on a large rock. So maybe you kind of see where I'm going here, because for that reason, I feel like today's cocktail is more of a tropical cocktail than a tiki one. This one really walks the line, but tropical and tiki cross over all the time. So let me show you how to make it and discuss this a bit more with you coming up next. If you have found this video helpful and interesting so far, then please let me know by hitting that like button. It really does help my channel a lot. Today's recipe comes to us from Christine Wiseman, but Vino from 60 Second Cocktails actually found it for me when Dave from Cocktail Fridays and myself were on his channel, like I spoke about before. So I looked it up on punchdrink.com, and here we are. Let's get it going. 6 drops of Elemakule tiki bitters. I always want to start with those first. 1/4 ounce of Demerara coconut syrup, or coconut Demerara syrup. Okay, let's talk syrup here. Christine makes a coconut syrup by combining 2 parts of coconut sugar, I used organic, and then you heat up 1 part coconut water, and of course you stir that until they're combined, but don't leave it on the heat, don't boil it, it will definitely burn. I thought this syrup would bring in massive coconut flavor, but it really tastes more like molasses to me. When I made this, I thought immediately of my world famous barbecue ribs. I use a cup of molasses in my barbecue sauce. So next time I make it, I'll definitely try that with this syrup instead of the molasses. It is sweet, of course, with a little bit of coconut flavor, but not as much as you might think. It's surprisingly very tasty syrup. Next up is 1/3 ounce of banana liqueur. I am using Tempus Fugit Creme de Banana today. Christine prefers that for this cocktail. I tried it with lots of different rums and lots of different, well, I only have Jaffards and Tempus Fugit, but I found in each sampling that Tempus Fugit seemed to balance out the cocktail the best. Next up is 1/4 ounce of aged rum. Christine recommends Mount Gay or Bacardi 8. I tried Bacardi 8 in this cocktail. It really gave it a dry feeling to me. I like the Mount Gay Black Barrel in this better. I wouldn't go with Mount Gay Eclipse in this because actually I just don't like it in general, but the Mount Gay Black Barrel is a better one for this cocktail. Next up is 1.5 ounces of Denizen Dark. Okay, here's the big sub. Christine recommends 10-to-1 Caribbean dark rum. I don't actually have 10-to-1 Caribbean dark rum, but I read the tasting notes for the 10-to-1 and settled on this Denizen Dark. It has an earthy note like agricole, but it's a mix of Guyanese rum and Martinique agricole rum. It has a slightest bit of funk, a little bit of vanilla, very slight barrel vibe. It's kind of toasty, almost nutty, I would call it. 10-to-1 note says that on the palate, it's much more savory in character versus driven by esters. Tobacco, cedar, mulch, and vanilla. So I read it like it has more fruit properties than the Denizen, but we do what we can. At some point, I'll order the 10-to-1 dark. I tried Hamilton's dark here in this cocktail, but in the end, I liked the Denizen's rum better. So that's our ingredients. We're gonna stir this cocktail with ice and strain it into a rocks glass. So let's do that real quick. Get a piece of ice in our glass here. Let's get the cocktail over the top. Garnish with a little bit of grated, dehydrated banana. Then I'm gonna drop a banana chip on the top of that ice block and a little orange peel twist. Clean it up real quick. That looks pretty good. That is the Hakuna Banana. So from my point of view, tiki is fruit juices and more layered flavors, like the use of falernum and allspice dram in there, passion fruit, guava, purees, and syrups. That is why a daiquiri isn't technically a tiki cocktail. It's tropical. It has 3 ingredients and it's not layered, not very much. Although today's cocktail has a great mouthfeel, we generally see that more in tiki cocktails than tropical ones. And again, look at a daiquiri with a crisp, light flavor versus a Mai Tai, which is going to be a strong cocktail with lots of depth of flavor. Tropical lends itself to a light, crisp flavor, but can still be fruity, when then tiki lends itself to being a more strong cocktail with more depth of flavor, oftentimes with layered spirits and layered fruit juices. Tropical generally does not have a focus on mugs and over-the-top garnish. It may not be a theatrical event either, but tiki and tropical can really be confusing to identify. They both really walk a fine line, but they both have an important history and it's really fun for me to explore that. So you tell me, do you think the Hakuna Banana is tiki or tropical? Put that in the comments below. I would really appreciate a little dialogue on that. It's an interesting subject for me, so thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'll be here again next week, so stay tuned and check my Insta for today's recipe in the meantime. See you next time. Cheers and be well.